You have never been hungry, not the way a body can be hungry. For most of human history, a meal was something you earned across weeks. And on a Royal Navy ship in 1805, this was the reward. A grey brick, hard as slate, crawling with weevils. Men fought to get more of it. So, what was in this food that made starving men grateful for it? And why doesn't anything you eat today do the same? The answer isn't about the food. It's about something every human used to feel 3 times a day that you have probably never felt once. To understand that food, start with the people who made it. In 1677, a clerk named Samuel Pepys sat down and did something no navy had done before. He wrote down exactly what a sailor was owed, not roughly, to the ounce. 1 pound of biscuit a day, 2 pounds of salt beef twice a week, dried peas, oatmeal, cheese, and a full gallon of beer. Behind him stood the victualling board, bakeries, breweries, slaughterhouses, an entire industrial machine built for one purpose: keep 100,000 men alive on the open sea for months with no way to grow anything and no way to keep anything fresh. It was one of the largest feeding operations on Earth, and what it produced would horrify you. Start with the biscuit. Flour, water, a little salt, baked until it was hard as a roof tile. Baked 4 times over so no moisture remained to grow mold. Stored dry, it lasted years. Sailors didn't call it hardtack, they called it bread. And after a few months at sea, it was rarely eaten alone, because it was rarely empty. Weevils, small pale beetles that bored into the biscuit and lived inside it. Experienced men wrapped each one on the table before eating to knock the creatures loose. Some didn't bother. A few ate in the dark on purpose so they wouldn't have to look. Then the meat, salt beef, packed into barrels years before it reached the mouth. So heavily salted, it came out hard as wood and had to soak a full day before it could be boiled. Sailors called it salt horse. It emerged gray and fibrous and reeking of brine. Here's the part that surprises people. That diet, biscuit, salt horse, peas, beer, added up to around 5,000 calories a day, more than double what you will eat today. A modern athlete in hard training would struggle to finish it, because running a sailing ship was the heaviest physical work most humans have ever done. Hauling wet rope, climbing rigging in a gale, turning a capstan for hours. The body burned through everything it was given and asked for more. So the food was foul, but there was a great deal of it. And here's where the story turns. We picture this food as a punishment, rotten rations forced down by desperate men with no choice. That picture is wrong. Sailors guarded their rations fiercely. When a purser shorted them, they rioted. Some of the largest mutinies in naval history were not about pay or cruelty. They were about food, its quality, its quantity, the suspicion that someone above was skimming it. Men who accepted floggings and drownings and cannon fire drew their line at the salt beef. The rotten, weevil-ridden, gray and reeking ration was not something they endured. It was something they fought to protect. Which raises a stranger question. Why would anyone fight for food like that? The answer is in the hours around the meal, not the meal itself. A sailor woke before dawn to cold and wet and work. By noon, after hours of labor on an empty stomach, his body carried one signal louder than any other: hunger. The kind that narrows the whole world to a single point. And then, at noon, the meal came. Dinner was the largest event of the day. It ran an hour and a half, not because the food was fine, but because it was the one stretch of the day that belonged to the men. They ate in misses, groups of 6 or 8 who shared everything, took turns cooking, and sat together between the guns. When that gray meat and hard bread hit a body that had been working and starving since dawn, it did not land like suffering, it landed like relief. The hunger that came first was doing something to the food no recipe ever could. This is the mechanism nobody sees. The satisfaction was never in the biscuit, it was in the gap before it. The emptiness the body carried all morning was the thing that made the meal arrive like a gift. Hunger was not the enemy of the meal, hunger was the ingredient. None of which made the food good for them. Something in fresh fruit, invisible, unnamed for centuries, was missing, and men died slowly of scurvy until a naval surgeon named James Lind proved in 1747 that citrus was the cure. The ration could fill a body and satisfy it completely while still quietly failing it. Satisfaction and nourishment were never the same thing. Now come back to your own life. You have almost certainly never been hungry the way that sailor was hungry. Not dangerously, not for hours with no certainty of relief. The moment you feel the first edge of it, food is minutes away. A fridge, a phone, a counter with something already on it. We told ourselves this was pure progress. And we were right about the part that counts. Nobody should die of an empty barrel. But watch what happened to the meal. In 2019, a researcher named Kevin Hall ran a study at the National Institutes of Health. He took 20 people, kept them in a lab, and fed them 2 diets matched exactly. Same calories on the table, same sugar, same fat, same protein. The only difference was how processed the food was. On the processed diet, people ate 500 more calories a day. Same nutrients in front of them, they simply ate faster than the body's fullness signals could keep up. The food was gone before hunger ever got a chance to speak. That is the modern meal, engineered to be swallowed before you feel anything. We made food abundant, then we made it frictionless. And friction, it turns out, was where the feeling lived. Here's the part almost nobody stops to consider. When we removed the hunger, we didn't only change how much we eat. We removed the thing that made eating feel like anything at all. The sailor's satisfaction was never low standards or having nothing better. His body spent every morning building an appetite the way a bow builds tension. By noon, the plainest food on earth arrived like a feast, because the wanting had been real and long and earned. You have that machinery too, the exact same reward system, tuned across hundreds of thousands of years to pay out hardest when food arrives after scarcity. It is still in you, fully intact, waiting. It just almost never fires, because the scarcity never comes. You settle hunger before it starts, a dozen small times a day, and the payout keeps getting cancelled before it can land. The sailor ate rotten meat and felt something you have chased your whole life and rarely caught. He wasn't tougher than you, he was just hungry first. So picture him one more time, a man on a wooden deck in 1805, tapping a biscuit against the table to knock the weevils loose. Grey meat, warm beer. The worst food you can imagine, eaten with something close to reverence. You will eat better today than any admiral in that navy ever did. Fresher, safer, richer, from every corner of the earth, in any amount you want, the moment you want it. And you will almost certainly not remember a single bite of it tomorrow. He fought to protect his rotten ration because it gave him something the food itself never held. We kept the food and lost the thing. We made every meal available and made no meal an event. You have never been hungry. It turns out that was the part that mattered.